Hello, good morning everyone. I hope you guys have had a wonderful start to the day so far. I would just like to start off by saying how excited I am that my father is running for Congress. I know firsthand that anything my father sets his mind to, he will definitely accomplish. And anything that he promises, he will keep. My father is a wonderful person. He is a go-getter, he's a leader, and that is definitely shown through his full bird colonel rank. He truly loves this country more than anybody that I know and its people in it, and he's a wonderful person. Sorry, I don't usually speak in front of crowds like this. I'm getting a little nervous. Mind blown. I had a wonderful speech already written out and everything. Yes. I would just like to say that, you know, with Congress, we need somebody that is a true leader. We need somebody that truly values, you know, the conservative platform, and we need somebody in there that can bring up everything that we want to see in this government. And I would truly, Dad, here you are. The man I'm so proud to call my father, Larry Mrozinski.
Well, there you go. What a tribute from the youngest of the four. And Catherine, many don't know that my daughter goes to Kennesaw University. She's the youngest of our four. And Catherine was the Sequoia High School commander, and she was one of the first in 9 years to command leadership as the commander at the Citadel for the summer program for the state of Georgia. And ladies and gentlemen, before I get in, I would be remiss. I want to introduce my lovely wife, Danelle, 28 years. My son, Robert, who is here, goes to Life University. And my son, Michael. Michael is a veteran. In 5 years, 5 and a quarter, Michael has got out of the Army as an infantryman, got his expert infantryman's badge when he was a young PFC, got out as a sergeant, E5 in 3 years, and my son is graduating Life University in December after 2 and a quarter years on the quarter system, a 4-year degree. Very proud of both of you and my daughter. My daughter Mary, who's the oldest, works for a corporation in Georgia, and she's not with us today. We are grandparents. Our grandchild will be born at the end of January and early February, so we're really excited about that. We're very proud of our firstborn, Mary, who was born in Schweinfurt, Germany. Ladies and gentlemen, it is so good to be here. As a Cherokeean, and the first in the history of Woodstock since the incorporation of the great state of Georgia to run for Congress. When I'm your second congressman in the history of Georgia, as my daughter said, I pledge to you as I pledged throughout my life, that I will deliver and I will serve you. I've heard here today some comments about when we get to Washington, D.C., we'll talk about that, and talk about what are we going to do for others. Well, I'm a substance candidate, and I know the details. I'm going to share some of those details with you today. I am not a politician, and ladies and gentlemen, politicians peel back your gray matter, massage it, tell you exactly what you want to hear, different target audiences, give you the sizzle, not the steak. And you all know me also in the state of Georgia as the Veterans Outreach Chair, the speeches that I've made, the people that I've helped, and where I've been. And I'm going to continue that as a Cherokeean. And this is where my headquarters is, in my county, in this county, in Georgia, and also in the district. You are part of that family. Ladies and gentlemen, where are we right now in our nation? You have cards before you, but these cards have data on it. And then you look at that and you say, how do you explain those? Let me first start off with saying this. I have stated on August 17th in front of 253 people, the largest in the district, to make an announcement. And I stated there as a non-politician, very proudly, serving my nation for 27.3 years, and sadly, as a career is, to break that career and to come home, but proudly to serve the fourth commandment, to take care of your parents, which I will encourage you to get that chance. The grace that is in it is boundless. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that when we have career politicians, the Constitution of the United States, and I believe as a common sense conservative and a problem solver, which you all know I am, I believe that the career politicians have had their day. The career politicians, ladies and gentlemen, are behind us. We are not standing still. We're moving forward for tomorrow. This is our nation. This is our country. This is our community. And we're moving forward because time and time again, we are disappointed. We are told the things that massage us, tell us what we want to hear, and then every 2 years, we are disappointed. We're not disappointed in Larry Mrozinski. Ladies and gentlemen, the Constitution is very clear about the terms of the president. Well, we had to clarify that in the 22nd Amendment. Ladies and gentlemen, those who tell you that term limits is not something that is something in this country, how many here would like to see a third term for Obama? Raise your hand. 22nd Amendment. We going to have somebody go there to repeal it? 27th Amendment. Newsflash. Anyone in the race? 27th Amendment. You know what the date of that was? 1992 was ratified. 22nd was 1951. Limits congressional pay. Anyone here in the room know when was the last time the American public was given the opportunity to vote on an amendment? Anyone have a guess? Shout it out. When was the last time they trusted you with a national? None of the other candidates in the race know that. Or probably most across the United States. You gotta know your history.
Probably about the 1970s.
1968, Equal Rights Amendment. It's the last time they trusted you with a vote. Don't ever let somebody tell you that the constitutionally term limits is wrong. We're in critical and difficult times, and we have to have leadership. And leadership is about understanding how to do problem solving. And it's substantive. It's not sound bites. It's proven. Character has fingerprints. It tells you where you've been. Ladies and gentlemen, where you've been is this. I believe, whether it's in Congress or in state as a taxpayer, that I believe that when you get to Congress, full disclosure, transparency, we've already heard that from this president. We need to have full transparency. When you're running for office, where have you been? If you are a public official and you've cost the state this money in Congress or any position, you have to come clean with it. Put the hand on the Bible and say, I did not do that. Consequences, spiritually and also in public. Ladies and gentlemen, I can put that hand on the Bible. I know where I've been. And as far as what we hear from politicians, it's always about the money. Ladies and gentlemen, how's that working out for you? Same platitudes. Only one in the race that says, I will not accept congressional retirement. Who is committed to that? Colonel Larry Mrozinski. The average, 17%. Oh yeah, it's about the numbers. Don't let them get you off mark. 17%. That's 69 out of 463 get $100,000 a year for retirement. And what's the average? 57,641. Oh, I can give you more number statistics. That's what I got upstairs in the attic. I don't have to go down to the basement and get damn feet. I'm staying dry. I'm going to give you exactly what you got. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to repeal that and abolish it. Now, I've written on this. I've written on this, and you've seen my fingerprints that I've written. Not sound bites and platitudes. I've been there and done that. I've written on these issues, and I encourage you to consider in the race what and where your money. With this candidate, term limits, self-imposed. I've heard all different kinds of time limits on that. I want to have time with my lovely wife in my life, but I want to give the American people in my 11th district a breath of fresh air. You know, politicians are like an old truck. You know, you start them out, comes out of the barn, they load up with a bunch of lobbyist stuff in the back of that truck and a half a tank of gas, and you say, hey, I'm going to be there, and they never wind up getting there. Those retread tires just don't take it. And that half a tank of gas doesn't. Ladies and gentlemen, you got to plan the trip. You got to look ahead. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to look forward. Money will not drive campaigns because you're not getting paid to vote. So anytime you hear a career politician who's been in for a couple of decades or whatever talk about money across America, be wary. Here comes another one. We need to not have career politicians in charge anymore. We have stopped. Enough is enough. We need to take this back and put in fresh blood. And across all the counties, you've seen some of the signs going up. We've got Sandy Springs, Cobb, and you've seen that. And I'm sure we'll have a couple of teardrops as they pass them. Ladies and gentlemen, those are statements. And the calls that I've gotten at my home and recordings, Colonel, they look wonderful. Colonel, what can I do? Larry, terrific. Thank you very much. A lot of those are not in this room. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not Colonel Mrozinski's race. This is yours. I'm having so much fun. When we're talking about some of the national security issues, well, you know, I believe in this. I want to see your DD Form 214. Where have you been? Okay? Can you validate it? Mine's at the Canton Courthouse with a raised seal on it, like this one right here. I'd like to know, how did you serve? What did you do? I just do that as a personal choice, whether it's term limits, personal, or it's full disclosure. Anyone up here can come and see the signed certified seal of my career of 27.3 years. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm the son of a prisoner of war, Ignacy Mrozinski, third generation. And for some of you, with the names hard to pronounce, that tells you how conservative I am, because it's 1,000 years old and I'm not changing it. My father was a prisoner of war. This is one of the rarest books that you will ever put your eyes on. This is my father's World War II war log. My dad left this in 2000, is always on my memory. It's a photograph of my father in Naples, Italy, when they came from North Africa just before his Thompson machine gun, just before he took the platoon up in the 358th and the 88th Infantry Division. My father came out of Camp Gruber, Louisiana. And out of Camp Gruber, Louisiana, my father had trained a platoon and had platoon guides, and they had a platoon leader. That platoon leader was shot, killed. And my father was captured in Bologna, Italy, and he had a couple of Purple Hearts. One of them, when I get a little older, to understand about the shrapnel on his backside from a howitzer, and his teeth were partially knocked out from a potato masher, which was a hand grenade. And I saw that little concave on his left goes in and out from the Mauser. And I asked Dad, what's that? He goes, oh, that's from a rifle shot. My father said pearls of wisdom once. And he said, I prayed for that man every day of my life. That's my dad. And if it wasn't for my dad's alertness, I would not be here today. I'd be the proud son. Well, my father always said, do something for everybody every day. Well, I'm holding also something that I just want to share with you. And this is from my grandmother. This is also very rare. This is one of several that I have behind me. It's a Red Cross, and it's addressed to Tech Sergeant, which is E7 rank in the Air Force and the Army split. Tech Sergeant Ignacy Mrozinski. Service number 139264, Stalag 7A, Germany. I won't read it all. Dear son, receive news that you are safe. Everybody at home are very happy over your good luck. And my grandmother ends by saying, I am feeling fine now. I am always thinking of you, son. So until I write again, take care of yourself and don't worry about home. Ladies and gentlemen, Colonel Mrozinski, when I go to Washington, D.C., you're not going to have to worry about home. Because I'm going to be that congressman that's going to be, when they say over in that pine box, that man was a good man. And what you have is your family name and your reputation. Mine's 1,000 years old. And I'm not about to sully that. I'm not about to sell my soul or sell anything to anybody. And I can tell you that. You are my strategists. I don't have to reach back to somebody to tell me what to say. And that brings me to this. I spent the 27.3 years in active duty, and I've seen a lot. I'm not going to stand up here and sit on my military career, but I've seen things that were not pleasant, and I've seen things that I'm very proud about in my country. Ladies and gentlemen, every time I had a rank, I pledged to the Constitution of the United States. And I'll bet you my 27 years outdoes anybody's NRA's description, of which I'm a member. So if you have any bona fide about the National Rifle Association or about the right to bear arms, you're not going to hear preaching from me. Been there and done that. My job in the military was probably one of the most exciting, and my wife will tell you. I will tell you that when I had the opportunity, I was fortunate to be one of those few to be selected for colonel. I told my wife, "Oh, honey, it's a pyramid, it's really tough," and she goes, "You're going to get it." My wife has been my biggest supporter, and my children, I couldn't be more proud, traipsing around the world. My son Robert, born in Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Michael, born in Schweinfurt, Germany. My daughter Catherine, born in Louisiana at Fort Polk when I was at Joint Readiness Training Center. I have served in many varied outfits throughout the world. Some very prestigious, and I've had some very tough assignments, and I enjoyed every one of them. And I just can't see how I made it all that time. When I got picked up, a telephone call to go to the State Department, I called up my wife. True story. I was the deputy at McPherson for the general staff. And I said, hey, because I became promotable. And they called me up and says, hey, we know. Because I threatened to get out once when they wanted to send me to go to the schoolhouse to be one of the instructors for a warfighting clinic that was being put on by one of the 3 stars who came out of the box. And I said, came out of NATO after 3 years, I'm not doing it. I said, I got my family to think of. Can't put them out in the middle of flat land. Send me operational. Came to Georgia, this is where my godfather, I got relatives here and teachers in Cherokee County and Cobb. And I tell you that this was one of the best decisions. I went back out into the box, they gave me the assignment, went to Iraq, another tour back into Kuwait. And I can tell you right now, when I got that telephone call, my wife said, I said, I don't know, I think I'm going to go back. They said, yeah, we know, go back to operational. My wife says, take it. I said, take it? Why? She says, honey, the kids have been so worried about you, and it just cascaded. And I never knew this. I traipsed around Bosnia-Herzegovina, Kosovo, lived 6 months straight in Haiti. And some of these areas, when you're trained, you have no fear. You're smart in what you do and careful, but you have no fear. And I came back, and I didn't want to be like my father and have the Purple Hearts. That's not something that I wanted to follow my dad in. So God was good. Ladies and gentlemen, I got that call, and my wife said, I think you should consider it. Well, I did, and it was one of the best 3 years of my life that I served this country. Condoleezza once said, Rice, I was a senior military advisor for the State Department doing foreign policy and as peacekeeping, sanctions, and counterterrorism. And she said once, foreign policy, clear and classical statements of deterrence. Now, she's had this also in the Foreign Affairs magazine, which you can go look up and get that item and you'll get it back in. And she would say that at meetings in the State Department on the 7th floor and talk about how we as stewards should look forward and how we do foreign policy. Ladies and gentlemen, I will tell you that it was one of the greatest opportunities to be among one of the great leaders in our country. And developing foreign policy strategies in this nation was one of the hallmarks of my life. I published internationally on China. I'm a China expert. International Journal of Intelligence and Counterintelligence, and I'm the one that would probably be the one to say, no, don't tell me something's impossible, I can do it. Well, the Chinese had something called Unrestricted Warfare. It was written in Chinese and was deciphered in English by one of our agencies. So I took that book, which I have, and I read it cover to cover, figure out what the strategy was for the United States. So it is the first, oh yes, look it up. It is the first in America. It was published in 2002. It was written in 2000. That's how long it takes to get into journals. It was written on the strategy for our joint forces. It's how to look at what the Chinese perceive as the weaknesses they thought in our joint forces command, and also in our foreign policy and about American culture. Well, that's probably one of the reasons I wound up in the State Department, because we had a deficit in that area. And so when we did either resolutions for the United Nations or foreign policy meeting, they were included. They even helped when it came to Sudan, very particular things that our President Bush, through the National Security Council, we had to deal with about the war within those North and South culture, very, very terrible proxy wars, as it were. And I will tell you that this education, this information, things that I was allowed to do, has prepared me for this congressional. No one is going to have to do a reach back in my office. They're going to go right to the colonel. Been there, done that. Now, my lovely wife and I just returned. We were up there the week of the 17th of October, and we spent some time up at Washington, D.C. Former State Department and current State Department and Department of Defense, retired and active. Of course, remaining anonymous. And I will tell you that talking to them, military, you've read 9. It's over 200. We have a politically correct administration that has a litmus test. And commanders are getting themselves relieved. It's a fact. And there's some getting written up. Now, it's fundamentally across the board. Now, what it requires is somebody who understands the military, understands how that's put together. You can't shine somebody on it. They've already been there and done that. And so I have those tools. So I will fix any confused person across the aisle and bring them into the fold with adult leadership. And that's what we're missing in our 14 congressional districts. Adult leadership is knowing what you got upstairs, and if you don't have the answer, tell somebody, I'll get back to you on the answer. Ladies and gentlemen, I published just recently, went out to 2,000 news services across America, thanks to my chief of staff, and local, the 10-point plan to fix the Veterans Administration. Only one in the nation. I wrote it in 2012 and I dusted it off and cleaned it up a little bit to hone it for what this administration has done to our vets. And you know that on YouTube, you saw Call to Veterans when I took it to Obama on executive orders. He writes them for $16.50, but he doesn't write them for our vets for the backlog. That plan that I've done talks about detail, not platitudes. Talks about the three hierarchies of what we need to fix our military. One of them is we need to hold them to a CPI. Right now it's 5% that a manager in the Veterans Administration gets held. We need to hold them to the Consumer Price Index, the same as our Medicare and Social Security. When I get to Washington, Shinseki's gone. He needs to be fired. He has not served well, and he's made excuses, and not one civilian has been held accountable in administration. And that's unacceptable to me. And here's the other academic that's not there. When you leave active duty, the regulation says that on active duty, you have 6 months to go ahead and apply for your veterans benefits. Then within 6 months, we'll contact you. Ladies and gentlemen, folks already know me. I'm already being a congressman. I'm niching people in to get help. Whether it's a police officer, whether it's a veteran, I drop what I do because I don't play the politics. I'm running for office. I did it beforehand because it's the #1 thing. It's what my father would be proud of me that I do today. To get these veterans seamless, we need to have a Veterans Administration person inside the Department of Defense at these installations. 220 installations, 153 veterans facilities, centers. Okay, you got to know the math. I mean, you got to know what you're up against, or else you're just going to hire another empty suit. and this one's got something in it. I will tell you that we need to go ahead and get seamlessness to get the benefits. We have two agencies. Now, we've had congressmen in before in 14 districts across Georgia and across America. And what we've had with 435 is a lot of good persons, but we haven't had the fix. Why is it? Why is it we still have this backlog problem? 23 million Americans, over 800,000, nearly 800,000 in Georgia, still, as far as veterans, and many of those still have backlog on their services. I will fix that. Why? Because I got solutions. And I got ideas, and more important, I got leadership. And that's going to carry the day when we start laying this all out, whether it's foreign policy or not. And then I'll just also mention, when it came to 2006, if anyone mentioned about the Israelis, when we had the Hezbollah and had some rockets being fired, well, I'm proud to say that I was in that one room when we started to work out about the rules of engagement and how the peacekeeping forces and what we were going to do to get this situation under control. That takes leadership, that takes a little bit of knowledge. And in Congress, we can't have our people going off to war. I will not tolerate, nor will I say, well, hey, you got a position coming up. You know what, Mrozinski, you got a future. I will not tolerate to be pandered to, mollycoddled. I will not drink the Kool-Aid, ladies and gentlemen, because I don't particularly care for it. And I will tell you that when we have 4 Americans killed in Benghazi, and the result of this is we had 115 cruise missiles prior to that fired in from U.S. submarines. For who? Benefit of the British and the French. We haven't had one drop of oil, and they tried to lie to us on this administration. One drop of oil didn't come through into the United States since Reagan bombed Libya, but yet they told us this was about oil. It went to the Europeans, and we fired $1.5 million worth of our treasure. And then this president, a mutilated ambassador. Where's our congressman on that? Where are they? Moving on to another party? Where were they? And where are they? Ladies and gentlemen, we almost had it in Syria, where Syria became another. We had plans for 75,000 troops. Oh yeah, to drop into Syria. I guess Bush was right about those chemical weapons, huh? All right? So, this is where, now I can say that because then it was something you weren't supposed to talk about, but it's already been out in the media. We know the Russians are taking that out now. So our president did not lie to us. We need to be very vigilant in what we're doing in the country and who we elect. Transportation. There is no one in the state of Georgia, legislator or congressional, that can point to any piece of paper that they wrote or acknowledged that we were a donor state prior to myself. Can't happen. Now, if it does, what did you do about it? I don't think it's there. Nearly 4 years ago, I wrote about Georgia being one of 9 out of 50 a donor state. And then they told us, legislators, oh, looking out for you? They don't get into the details, because it's all about the prestige and the money, and that's the way I think a lot of us, why this is a populist candidate race. And said, we need to go ahead and take a look at transportation costs. 84.0% has come back to Georgia 50 plus years. That's going to change. Affordable Care Act. No one has published in the United States a congressional candidate than I on the Affordable Care Act. Solutions, inequities and solutions. How many in this race even have the numbers upstairs to even tell you that the Affordable Care Act, somebody who is in Albany, Georgia, which is rural, inequity, is going to now pay from $120 a 23-year-old, $2,000 deductible. It's going to go to $364. The average here is going to go $264 in Cherokee in the district. It's going to go $364. It's going to hurt our rural areas in Albany. And we need to use things like telemedicine, which is not there, to leverage, just like our electrical companies do for conglomerates. We need to leverage what will bring down the cost. It's going to balkanize, and it's going to take people and strip them and traditions out of Georgia and move them into the metro areas. And then we're going to wind up with ghost towns way down in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, you have some choices in this race. Go to colonellarry.com and you will read more of the detail. I will tell you that I will not sit and accept the status quo. I will bring it, the issues, as you've asked me, to the people. Honesty, integrity, and that's what I will continue to bring for Cherokee. And as a resident of Cherokee County, I am just very happy that the folks meet at the gas station, whatever, Colonel, go get them. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Ladies and gentlemen, help is on the way. I will be your voice in Congress. You will have an adult. Career politicians' time is over. You ain't got the details. Well, you don't belong in this seat. God bless you all. Yes. Thank you, sir.
Anybody have a question? Anybody have a question?
What about immigration, Larry? What do you?
Oh, very good question. Immigration, thank you, sir. Well, first thing about immigration, as you see in the card, it's words. We need to seal the border. We already went off legally, we went outside the law that we're supposed to have that border finished. Ladies and gentlemen, how many in here know if you're here illegally in the country, United States, green card, illegal, picked up by ICE, non-felon, what is one of the laws that they're supposed to do? They're supposed to register for in the United States. Does anyone know a law? It's not a trick question. Does anyone know a law? Okay. Well, I'll be the first candidate to go ahead and tell you. It's called 1917 Selective Service Act. And when you go to Congress, you've got to know the history. You've got to also understand your tools. And we have not have our tools exercised. Well, if you're going to be in this country, and I told you about my father. My father, the United States government, had 250 Mexicans attached to the U.S. Army. Fact. World War II. Look it up. My father had 40% at Camp Gruber. Well, if you're here, whether it's Ecuador, Bosnia, Serbia, or from China, the law says 1917 Selective Service Act. You're supposed to go to the post office. Well, now you can go ahead and go online because we didn't have that language in there, of course. And you're supposed to register for the draft. I want you protecting my country because if you're here illegally, I don't want my sons and my daughters going off to protect somebody who didn't put anything in.
Right.
You know,
Did I
Colonel,
answer your question?
No, tell me about the borders. What are you going to really do if you get to Washington?
What I'm going to do is work with other lawmakers. I'm not going to run down there with a shovel and a pitchfork and start pushing them over the fence. We need to have the laws that we have on the books. We already didn't put the fence up and fix it, which was supposed to be in 2 years, and it didn't happen. I want to make sure that our borders are not porous. And I'll tell you something else, which wasn't done. Not one in Georgia did this, including our current and others. Where were they when people said, oh, they're going to kill me, and all of a sudden they just used as an excuse to open up the floodgates to take people in because they said they were going to be persecuted or killed, and used our laws. They weren't even screened properly. But yet in our borders, sir, where is this administration or where is anyone in Congress telling you that Vietnam had over 58,000 people killed in 10 plus years? How many people have told you in 5.5 years we've had over 50,000 in Mexico alone killed? What's going on with that in our border? I mean, Israelis been blamed for a lot about Palestinians. I think that number is quite a lot more.